Hi everyone, welcome back. Happy Christmas, and I hope everyone's having a nice time. So, been a few days since I was working on this, so I'm just recapping what I'm working on next, which I think is operator assignment. So things like plus equals, minus equals, these should hopefully be quick enough. Then I'll be looking at some control flow constructs. I think I'll do the if, else, and else if first, and then work on return statements to finish off functions, which will also involve a bit of recursion. I'd like to add some tests for recursion, and that'll probably be as much as I'd be able to get done today, but let's see. So starting off with the operator assignment constructs. So those will be basic statements. So we'll be putting them up here. And we need to add some tokens for those. So we'll go into the Lexer. And let's see here. So it'll be the plus equals, sum equals. Sum equals. And div equals and model equals. And so we'll want to grab those from match double symbol as well. So that will be div equals that will be below colon equals, and although I'll be sorting these in a moment, so it probably won't make much difference. And I think that's actually the same ordering still. I'm not sure. I wonder if when I do a sort that the symbols get skipped and it'll actually do the sort on the first alphanumeric characters. So I'm just going to do a quick test here. So I'm going to swap that with that, and then I'll do a sort again. Yeah, so sort seems to actually skip the characters and not include those in its ordering. So that means the tokens, the ordering of the matches will actually match the token ordering in the enum. So that's interesting. So I think that's all my tokens. And actually something that I want to do as well at some stage is just do a little refactoring of, there's a bit of duplication I think in terms of stringifying tokens, and also in terms of at the moment I have a method for, or a function for, converting tokens into strings, and it's defined in the main function or in the main module, just because that's where it happened to where I was when I defined it, and just for simplicity's sake to get the thing working. But it is something that I'd like to relocate when I get a bit of time. So that should be all the symbols, and I'll need to add an AST piece for op equals. I might call it op assign here. Interesting. So I'm doing a direct overwrite here, but up here I'm doing a bind assignment. Let me take a look at what that's doing. This could be the case because I allow destructuring on the left hand side of an assignment, but that's not going to be the case with an op assignment. So for example, later I'll be allowing something like, you know, VOK is equal to F, but I'm not going to be allowing something like V plus equals I don't know what will be on the right hand side here, so that could be the reason for that. So let me see, assign as well, so that's in scopes. And is this doing anything special? Oh, I have 2 new lines there, that shouldn't be there. So in this case, the left hand side should be a variable and it should be a value that is being evaluated as well. So that's what's going on there. So So I can copy those sections. And I'll add a comment about this to explain why I'm doing it differently to the assign part. So I'm just thinking, what would happen if LHS isn't a variable? I might write a test to see that to see a couple of demonstrations of this in action. Do the assignment. Yeah, I might need to do a match on the type of LHS val to make sure that not sure actually. I'm not fully sure what's going on here actually, so I'll need to do a few tests, I think. So let me do the assignment directly. Oh, hey, thanks very much for the comment. And glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. Okay, so that's probably the feature itself actually implemented in this at this point. And so next what we want to do is yeah, basically lots of tests, I think, at this point. Okay, so that's the feature more or less implemented. So now let's write some, need to add some token handling. So again, ideally this would be handled by a more automated means. And once I refactor the stringification of this stuff, then hopefully I'll get that for free. Oh, I forgot mod, did I? I'd say so. I think that's fine for now though. I'm more interested in what's going on here. So let's see, and I can actually narrow down the test that I'm running. So instead of doing just check, I will do just check operations, and that will just run the checks on the operations file. Nice. So let's see. Or in fact, I'm just going to create a new file called x. Okay, so let's see here. So if I have x is equal to 1, and I do x plus equals 1, what will we get when I print x? So that should be relatively straightforward and expected, I would say. Now, the thing that I'm somewhat worried about here is because I'm accessing the value itself and updating the value, then it means that the value isn't immutable as such. So it's, rather than updating the kind of binding, I would say, the value at a bound location, it's updating a value directly. I wonder if I can... Yeah, I might need to walk through this on paper. Let me see first. So this could be an interesting test as well. Oops, what am I doing? And that should give more or less the same answer. But how can I test the thing that I'm afraid of? And does it even make sense as a test? So X is being assigned to, oops, connection's getting a bit choppy, I think. So X is going to, not like how choppy that is. Very unstable connection. So X is going to be the thing that contains one there. That internet connection is getting really unstable for whatever reason. I know, it's just going up and down very inconsistently. Okay, we'll give it a few more minutes and see how we go. So at this point, we have this, what's the best way to describe it? So I'll have a valref with source. I'll essentially have a box, and that's going to have one in it. And then in my scope binding, in my scope stack, there's going to be a binding X, and that will probably point directly to that box. Yeah, so this could be an issue here. Let's see. So first of all, I'll rerun my test so far. And yeah, my my train of thought is kind of, because I'm just piecing this together as I'm going along. So for that reason, I'm a little slow on the uptake, but let's see. So if I create a new variable and I assign that to be X and I increment X, what will the value of Y be? Will it be, so the value of Y shouldn't be changed. Now that's not what I... Oh, sorry. Yeah, so the distance. Yes, so I think I'm just understanding this wrong, but seems to be that the thing I was afraid of would happen is happening. So it looks like the standard output is actually 2, 2. So the value of y is being modified. So it's not the binding x that's getting updated. It's actually the value at that location, the value that is being pointed to kind of by the binding, which in short isn't like it works. But if this situation ever occurs where we assign a value to another value and then perform an operation on the previous value, then the two bindings get updated and not just the first one. So that's not what I want. So let's see. So instead of updating the value at LHS value, we would have to make sure that, we would basically have to do a match on LHS value as well. So first of all, we'll apply the operation and then we'll match, what's it, LHS val and get the value out of it, and that would have to be a no. So we're dealing with I really wasn't expecting to get this bogged down with this somewhat simple feature at this point, but let's see. Because we're dealing with two levels of value, I guess. So on the one hand, the left hand side originally is just an AST production, so it's a, what's it called? Like it's a node on the AST, and so initially I'll want to match on that, and so that will want to be a statement var, I would guess. Let me double check. AST var. Oh no, it'll want to be a raw expression var. Well, it might be a regular expression actually. Not regular expression as in regex, but oh wait, sorry. I have the production here. Yeah, so it's an expression. And otherwise that will want to be an error. presume I don't have, I don't have a location error function there, but I'll add that in when I need to. So new location error, and that's going to be an error. No, I'll just call this something verbose for the moment and then clean it up afterwards. So non-var on op assign LHS, and I'll just have it like that for the moment. Otherwise, that should be even though when I call bind, that should perform the same kind of check. But I'm not doing a parse level restriction on the format of the left hand side, so I think this will still be necessary. I can probably go ahead. I'd say there's a narrower bind function that I can use as well, something like bind name, because by this point I'll have made sure that it's just the name, or it's just a variable assignment that's on the left hand side. So let's see, bind next, bind name, I would say. Yeah. Oops. So we've scopes, we've named location, we've the value. Yeah, and the bind type is assignment. So that should be what I want. Okay, that should be it. I think I just need to add in all the different errors. So let's see. 173, whoops. 173. Expected a tuple found a raw expression. Oh, is this in the wrong order? Yeah, I think it was 173. do new location error. I'll do this for now. I'll add a no commit comment so that I don't forget to change it to a location error. Hopefully I'll have tests to cover it as well that will remind me. So op assignment, yeah, that name should be fine. Binary operation. Okay, so that needs to be a new file ref as well. Okay, so I think I've only 2 new errors to add. So that would be assignment bind failed, and this would be op assignment bind failed, and then op assign LHS not var. I won't add a parameter to that for the moment. Okay, so that's passing, which is good. So that means that the bug is fixed at least, but now I need to add an error test as well to check that the that assignment will output an error. Whoops, where is my screen time errors? So if I have plus equals 1, excuse me, sorry, wasn't in time with the mute button there. And so, okay, first of all, it's saying can't apply plus to a list and an int. So that's correct. So why don't we do something that is possible? So that should at least evaluate correctly. So yeah, so now we have the left hand side of an operation assignment must be a variable. And I guess I can put this higher as well. That can be the first thing, so we won't actually evaluate the expression at all if it's invalid. And that would, I'd like that to be 1, 1 will be the place that that gets detected. Yeah, so we just have one error test that's failing. So let's see. That'll be a little bit tricky because I don't store the location of statements generally. But I do have the position of the operator, so I could just be cheeky and reuse that instead. I don't want to do the same thing as I do with expressions, where I have expression is a raw expression with a location, just because it doesn't seem as necessary with the statements. Yeah, I think I'll just use the operator location. I could just add in the location again onto the AST node as well, but I think the op location should be sufficient for this. So how do I create a new location error again? So error at location. That'll be the source. Oh yeah, I need to put that in a box. And I'll need to copy those. And that should be it. Oh, I could use name location as well. But that's only going to be in the other branch. Yeah, so I'll leave it and I'll just be cheeky with the error location. I'll say that it's the location of the operation rather than the location of the start of the statement. Yeah, so that'll be position 3 for and I think I want to just shorten the error message slightly as well. Okay, that should be it for that one. Oh yeah. Okay, and that should be more or less it, although I should probably include mod as well, just for completeness. Oh, hi Lucretius, thanks for the question. So, bit of a complicated question in the sense that, so seed is essentially a, a rebuild from the ground up of a previous project that I had made feature complete in terms of a core language. So it was a complete language and functional language, but maybe not production ready in terms of, well, it could be classified as production ready, but just missing a lot of features that would be useful. And seed is actually a rebuild of that from the ground up, because one big thing that was, I suppose one of the big things missing from the previous iteration of this language was the fact that I didn't have any tests. So I was building it up feature by feature, and it was kind of feature complete, and through manual testing the language was working as expected, but there just weren't comprehensive enough tests to be actually rely upon the stability of the language. So what I'm doing now is building it from the ground up, or rebuilding it, and adding tests as I go along. And so I'm about, I would say, halfway through the features that I want to add. I wouldn't imagine that it's going to take too many more streaming sessions to get back to where it was before, just because the functionality is already there, and I'm just kind of copy pasting the old code, adding it back in an iterative way, and adding tests as I go along. Oh, cool. And yeah, that's that's very impressive. I'm using Rust for this, which I guess has its own pros and cons relative to C. I would say for C in particular, you would need to have a lot of very rigorous tests, just because you have to be so much more aware of things like pointers and memory locations and things like that. And in fact, today was one of the first times that I had to be careful about, kind of indirectly careful about, overwriting data at a particular memory location, just because of the way I had implemented one of the features. But that's something that you have to be very careful of with C. So I can imagine, the tests in a project like that are going to have to be quite substantial, I would say, just because I feel there's a lot more that can go wrong at a lower level in terms of memory safety and things. Because I want to transpile C and also want C. Being able to include C header in the language and have it just work. That's an interesting take, and I think a lot of languages, especially in their early stages, make a lot of use out of that. They kind of have a somewhat cheeky FFI, or foreign function include mechanism. FFI, foreign function include, or interface, I guess. And where a lot of them will, I think, be something like that. Just at compile time, they'll be using the C runtime under the hood anyway. So including C includes kind of come out of the box. I think, was it Lua? I think used to do that. Probably C, Python, and Go, I think, all would have made use of that, just because I guess C is so ubiquitous as well, and there is so much already existing with C. And in terms of interfacing with the Linux system and kernel and things like that, that being able to use C includes, I think, will get you a lot of very nice functionality out of the box, and will, especially in terms of if it's a language that you want to push, so to speak, and get a certain level of adoption. I think having support for the likes of C includes helps people bring over a lot of the tooling that they're already used to, and libraries and things like that. So yeah, in fact, I'll be doing a little bit of that with my language as well, in terms of, I mean, the standard library. I'm going to be probably just reusing a lot of Rust functions directly and exposing them into my language through the import system. So there are lots of ways of kind of taking advantage of the language that you're implementing your own language in, so to speak. Mod equals, let's see. And is that everything covered now? I think it more or less is. Let's see. So I've added op assignment. Oh, and I need to get rid of that error in the scope stack above declare function. Assignment bind failed. Oops. And those are the operation tests and error tests, or error test. I only have one at the moment. Do I need more? Maybe. Yeah, maybe I'll have a bad types. Error here. And so the, oh yeah. That should really be column 1 in that error. Okay, yeah, I'll just do it for that one statement. I'll change I'll have it carry the location over. And so this is going to be 2, 3, yeah, can't apply plus to int and string. And so this should really be column 1. And AST will want to take LHS location. Oops. And parser. And yeah, I guess I'll do that. LHS location L, and then oh no, I have too many. And does that nearly gets me what I want? So op assignment Whoops. I was detached from my tmux. So that should get me what I want, I think, in terms of the error column. So that's line 2, 3 can't apply. What's going wrong here? Runtime errors. Can't apply. What's the difference? Can't apply to indent string. Oh, the wrong error file name. Add types. For the render token as char method, why don't you put the toString at the end of the match? Good question. I think that's because there are some branches where I do a format instead of just using the, so I think that's in toString, isn't it? Render token. And I was thinking of doing the same myself, but these three, and it's kind of annoying because it means the rest of them need to take the toString. Now, having said that, it's a function that I want to refactor anyway at some stage. I think there's a lot of duplication here. Could you use as string for the 3? Yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah, maybe I'll do that now. Yeah, thanks for the suggestion. And yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I never do it the other way. I'm really used to doing toString, but I don't think I've ever really used the as string approach. So git commit add support for, oh no, I need to add documentation. So that's one of the other bits that I've been wanting to build up as I go on. So yeah, so I need to go into features as well. So operations precedence, operation assignments. So that would be x is equal to 1, x plus 2 is 3, x multiplied by 3 is 9, and x modulo 2 will be 1. So that will be 3, 9, and 1. Whoops, what happened there? Okay, so that seems to be all the tests passing, and let's see, new documentation. And new features tests. Yeah, that's all good. And we'll push all those. And I'll go ahead and apply that suggestion from the chat. So that is in main render token. It shouldn't be token as chair, it should just be render token. And yeah, can I do, there we go. And let s equals that. And then we'll go s to string. Keep doing that. So format temporary value is freed at the end of the string. Oh, I probably, do I need to, whoops, do it like that? Not sure I like that quite as much. Temporary values freed. Any suggestions from the chat? Let's see. Yeah, my usual workaround for this would be to turn everything into a string, whereas in this case it's converting stuff away from like I'd be converting it to a capital S string to just skip the lifetime stuff. I have like a selection of mental shortcuts I use. Yeah, so it's the borrow checker complaining here. So based on the suggestions in the chat, I was converting these guys into, shall we say, raw strings, and then trying to convert to a capital S string at the end, just to simplify it, because it is kind of untidy with just the toss strings everywhere. But based on the borrow checker, I might have to leave it like that for a while. Maybe that's something that I could take a look at refactoring now anyway. So there's the token enum. I have functions for matching sequences of characters and converting them to tokens. I was thinking of using a prefix tree for matching the tokens, but when I was thinking about it earlier today, the prefix tree makes sense. However, in the context of a Lexer, I'm going to want to potentially peek ahead or consume tokens sometimes and not other times. So for example, in the case of I think is it here. So if I match a single token, then let's see. Just trying to think through this again in my head, the logic of why I can't use a simple prefix tree. And so the reason is, first of all, there are some, so if I have, for example, and this will be complicated later, I think I have 2 or 3 triple symbol tokens as well, but just keeping it for the double symbol tokens and the single symbol tokens. Some of these double symbol tokens start with characters that on their own are valid tokens. So for example, the asterisk, plus, minus, all the arithmetic symbols on their own are valid tokens on their own. But at the moment anyway, an ampersand isn't a valid token on its own. So in the case that I match a token that's valid on its own, then I will consume it and put the scanner on one character, and then I'll check, is the second character part of, are the 2 characters together also part of a valid token? And if so, then the longer token gets matched, otherwise we fall back to matching just the first token. However, if the first token isn't a valid token on its own, it could still be a valid token as part of a double symbol token. In which case, what do I do in here? Well, I still consume the next character. So actually, I'm going to be consuming the next character either way. But I probably, actually, this is possibly an error. Maybe. Yeah, I think this could be something that I shouldn't be doing. I mean, it's probably innocent enough. Well, first of all, if I'm doing this anyway, then it means that prefix tree, it should be fine, because it'll be doing the same thing anyway. And I'll just be reading all the characters I need anyway. One thing that this approach does, though, is I think this will prevent me from reading 2 tokens if I only match 1 token. That's getting a bit too complicated in my head. I think I'm doing something. I probably can use the prefix tree approach, but I just need to be a little careful about it. It looks like I'm probably doing something. Well, it's probably only silly from a perspective of error handling. So if I've read ahead too far and then I need to output an error, I need to remember where I started looking at tokens. But in terms of the prefix tree approach, like, it seems like something that should be a simple enough thing to refactor. But will I do it today? Maybe not. Handling manual memory management, but strings will be implemented with reference counting, and they're great when they act like normal values. Actually, that's one nice thing about, well, I say it's a nice thing about it. I still haven't dug too deeply into the real nitty-gritty details of how the life cycle of variables will be in this language, but at least at a glance, because all the values in this language are first of all put into mutexes, so they're safe across threads, but also they're put into reference counted objects as well. So theoretically, when the values drop out of scope, they should automatically be garbage collected. Now, I guess it runs into the same issue as the usual memory managed languages, where that reference counting in theory is all well and good, but in practical terms, there could potentially be a lot of values that aren't any longer referenceable in the current scope of the language at a certain point. And so there probably would be a need for implementing some more sophisticated garbage collection in the language at some point. But it is cool that, like, I haven't implemented anything for reference counting in the language so far, but as far as I know, it should work out of the box with the RC primitives from Rust. But getting back to where I was in terms of development, that took a whole lot longer than expected because of that bug that was there early on. And in fact, I forgot to add a test for that. So after all my talking about adding tests, I should really have added one for this. Okay, back to where I was. Yeah, so if and else statements. So let's see, I'll take a look at. And most of these have put the block on the next line, so are the what happens in the statement on the next line. So I'm going to go ahead and be consistent with that. So let's see, if statements. And how have I defined this? So it's a vector of branches with an optional final branch, or an optional else branch rather. Is there a way of simplifying that, I wonder? Like I possibly could do a thing like this. So that any number of if-else statements can be made. But I think I'll just, like I'd need to have this. Yeah, let's try this out as a quote-unquote simplification. So I'll get a bunch of ifs. I want to convert those to branches, so they're going to be made up of those going to, what's the structure of that going to be? I'll just count that out and try this. Yeah. So named symbols are only allowed at the top level, so that means I'll need to get rid of that and that, I guess. Terminal if doesn't have a pattern defined for it on line 74. Oh yeah. So I'll need if and else. The Lexer will need this. Ooh, that looks like a conflict. Yeah, so maybe I won't do my super special approach, and I'll just go with what was there before. So I need to define branch. I guess that's defined in the old AST code. Yeah. Okay, so I think I've added code like this before. Val expression to something. Yeah, to string. And so I'll do the same for bool. And I don't need that for a boolean. Do I allow? Yeah, it comes back as a raw bool. And that would be context of val condition. And eval statements in new scope, that's defined all right. And that should be almost everything, I think. Yeah, other than the error statement or the new error variant. just below, oh, I can't remember. So above functions, declare function failed. That's a lot of dropped frames. The internet has gotten very unstable here, so hopefully this year I'll be getting an actual wired connection. Still working off of well, not Wi-Fi, but wireless broadband connection still, so that would be, I would say, partly to blame for that. And the weather recently hasn't been the best, so that's going to have a knock-on effect too, but condition. Okay, so I'm gonna have to, I would say, do a lot of, so that actual implementation was fairly straightforward in that the code was basically copy and paste as it was before. There don't seem to be major obvious bugs anyway, from what I could see of the statements, but let's see. And I'll add yeah, I was wondering why it was doing a return here, but that makes sense. I mean, if one of the, so we go through all of the branches and the first one that gets matched is going to be the one that gets evaluated, and it's going to return the result from that and skip all the others, so that makes sense. So let's see. If true, print. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of simple stuff here. try what we have so far. Yeah, that all seems to be good in the hood. And that actually might be most of the cases that I want to cover, actually. Actually, I want to cover nesting. So let's... Do I want to cover nesting? I guess just a simple one anyway. So that's 2. And 3. Okay, so this should more or less work the same as else ifs as well. But let's go ahead. So this should print 1 and 5. And actually all of those tests should be 5 as well. Or just those 2 anyway. So that's nested if 1, nested if 2 will be printing 2 and 5. So that should print 3. don't fully trust the fact that everything passed the right way. So I'm going to change something just to double check. Okay, so errors seem to get picked up as expected, so in that case we might be alright. So let's see, features. And so we'll see as well that this is using kind of the modern Go / Rust / modern unparenthesized if statements as well. Just be very boring. I need to add some new context as well, I believe. If the condition succeeds, that's the antecedent and that's the consequent. Or I could not be so fancy about it and just call it something like eval if body. Or I could just call it equals to condition. Why didn't I get that error down there? Oh, because of that, I guess. I know I could remove those semicolons and return the whole body directly, but I think so it's gonna make me okay. I would have said, well, since the value itself is unit, I guess that makes sense. If I was returning a value there though, I think it'd be a little clearer to assign it to a variable and then return that. What's gone wrong here? Because it doesn't have the return. Yeah. I don't really like that as much. I guess I have to do that. I don't like that. I guess it'll be cleaned up a bit more when I introduce, when I introduce support for returns, because then as in returns in the language itself, because then statements will potentially return, well, both when I introduce loops and or introduce returns, that will no longer be the unit type because it could potentially contain a value, and so that will make that little bit of code a little neater in my opinion. So I'll add that, add support for if statements. And with that done, that means, no, I can't do recursion yet because I need to add support for return statements. So let's see, can we squeeze in a little bit of that next. And if if I get that done, I'll be finishing up for the day then. Well, not just when I add the return statement support, but I will try doing a little bit of recursion. So it needs to be updated to use an escape. Val statements and val statements in a new scope. And I want to update the program evaluation to return an error if a return was encountered in the top level. Now I'm not sure the location of that return, so that might need to be carried with the value as well. So return outside function. So we'll do that. So that will terminate a block of statements early. here. I'll do my let v update that I was wanting to do earlier. And I'd say I'll have to do the same down here, will I? No, I think eval statements will do that for me. Oh, and that should be higher up. That should be in the eval prog. With each feature that gets added, it takes a bit longer to compile, as would be expected, but still, I think I have a good few features to go, so I feel like by the time I've gotten my ideas fleshed out, the compile time could be a little more than comfortable. But anyway, so let's see. So that's parameters, basic closure, return statements will be complex enough that I'll want to put them in their own test file even. Oh, so issue there is that the code generation that's happening behind the scenes is calling the function return, but yeah, I'm not gonna make that a thing. So return value. Return value didn't work, so it returned null instead. So let's see. So mod eval statements will be let v there. And I want a new what? New value. Or maybe that. Does eval expression take an escape? No, it returns a value. So how do I get call working in the old code? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So I'll let v equal that. And then I'll match the value that got returned from the blocks. And let's see. Test file. Okay. It's working now anyway, which is good, but again, I don't really trust like that. So let's see. We'll add in a few more tests around here. So we'll have return 1, printf will output 1. If true, return 1, else return 2, and printf should be 1, and then we'll put an else if as well. So let's try that. So I got an error. Can't apply equals to null and int. That is true at the moment. I wonder how I'll address that in the future, because I could see that being a pain. Yeah, you should be able to compare null to anything, and I think that's why. So when I started porting over the equality code, I simplified that section to handle nulls differently. So in the previous instance of the code, nulls were handled as a special case, and I removed that, and that's why nulls were handled that way previously. Oh well, I can add in support for that anyway. Oh, and I'll add in an error case for that, and I think need to add in some handling for the location as well. So so begins the slow compile times. Oh, I was like, so this is the error I'm actually getting, is the LHS of an operation assignment. And I'm like, that's not the error. How am I getting that error? Because I haven't changed the error message. Okay. So that should probably be in location 1.1. Return can't be used outside of a function. And the name of the test file will be return outside function. And let's see. Main. No. How am I going to get an at location for that? So I guess return will also need to include the location that it was called from. guess I'll add the location in the parser as well. Oh, have I? Oh, yeah. I pressed Control S, so the whole thing froze. Return statement. Location L. And let's see how we do there. So 1439. And yeah, we can discard the location because we don't need it by that point anymore. However, when we're up here, we do, because we're going to convert it to an error location. Okay, let's try that. Oh, coming up on 2.5 hours. So let's see, line 81 can't be. Do I just have to do it like that? 241, yeah, that is correct. And I need to add that on ast.rs. I was just missing it in the AST file. And I guess I'll copy that. And nice, that is the error line updated. Nice. For some reason, my connection to this box is kind of slow, but the stream is reliable, so not really sure what's happening there, but not a big deal anyway. And so that is ifs and else ifs knocked off, and that's functions finished. So that is another nice chunk of the language done. So there'll be loops, indexing, and then that will probably be the majority of the baseline features for the language. Then I'll be adding in some, shall we say, shorthand features, things like object shorthand, spreading, unspreading, and interpolated strings. Error handling, I don't think will go into this language. It'll be a feature of whatever language gets built on top of this. But now that I'm here, I would just like to try a simple recursive function, and we'll go good old Fibonacci. So if n is equal to, is it 0 or 1? Else if n is equal to 1, I'll actually have to look at it. It's been so long since I've looked up Fibonacci. So it's 1 1 1 1 2 3. So anyway, so if we say Fibonacci, I guess 5 or something. See, hopefully this doesn't just hang now, but I think I addressed any potential hangs in the previous time that I implemented functions. So it should be 8. So 1 2 3 4 5. Yeah, 1 2. Well, based on how I'm implementing, will I just, like, some of these are saying starts with 0, and I don't remember that. F0 is 0, F1 is 1. Okay, so maybe if I say if it's less than or equal to 1, then return n. And so f, let's say 8, should be 21. Even though that'll take a, how long will that take to compute? We'll see. If I see it hanging on the Fibonacci sequence, then I'll know I need to choose a smaller number. No, that seems alright. Cool. And that is a wrap for today, I think. So again, next bits to tack on here are going to be loops, indexes, and shorthands for different operations like spreading and unspreading and object literals. So yeah, and I think I still have a branch to do with integer being too big and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll get to all those bits. And some stuff that I was going to do for the stream itself as well. So that's basically it there for today. Thanks very much as always, to everyone who commented in and who is chatting. Always really nice getting to engage with people who are watching the stream. So yeah, I'll be planning to upload this on YouTube as well in the next few days. And yeah, I hope to see everyone again pretty soon. Take care.